Welcome to Evolve to Succeed, the podcast that brings together entrepreneurs, founders, business leaders and experts to talk about their journeys and explore the link between personal and business success. I'm your host, Warren Munson, founder of Evolve, a coaching, training and development company focused on enabling business and personal success and creating a community of like-minded individuals. Whether that be through our peer groups, one-to-one coaching, our training and development programs for you and your teams, or through our content and events, our mission is to get the best out of each individual and inspire them to be better both in life and in business. If you want to learn more about Evolve, including our beautiful co-working space in Ashley Cross in Poole, then please go to evolvemembers.com, where you'll find great content, insights, details of all of our services, and also information on our forthcoming events. For now though, let's get on with the show. Welcome to this week's episode. Today we hear from Simon Bocca, founder and CEO of PayCaptain, a cloud-based payroll system which Simon hopes will transform the payroll experience for companies and employees. Simon has over 18 years experience in the payroll industry, and prior to launching PayCaptain in 2020, he was the COO for a payroll service provider that grew from 5 to 1,200 employees and expanded into the USA and the UAE. As you'll hear, Simon's aim is to improve the financial well-being of employees and is constantly looking at the new technological advances that can improve both the customer and employee payroll experience. Simon makes the very valid point that compared to other aspects of the employee life cycle, there's been hardly any innovation with regards to payroll software for a number of years. He feels it's well overdue that it gets what he terms a love and attention, particularly in the current financial climate. We also talk about Simon's experience of launching in the middle of the pandemic, maintaining the entrepreneurial approach amid rapid growth, and we have a really good discussion about the purpose and the value of becoming a B-Corp. Please enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Evolve to Succeed podcast, Simon.
Hi, nice to meet you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you on the podcast. Really looking forward to our conversation. And I suppose which should start with the business that you've recently founded, PayCaptain. So you founded PayCaptain in 2020, having previously been the chief operating officer for a successful SaaS business. What inspired you to create PayCaptain, Simon?
Well, ultimately, I wanted to create PayCaptain because I really felt that the payroll process needed to be fixed and modernized. So many companies have a legacy traditional payroll solution that doesn't really add value into their company and a really poor employee experience of getting paid. So I felt it was something that needed to be fixed, needed to make it easier for companies to get this really important mission critical part of their business resolved, and also to give employees a much better experience of receiving their hard-earned cash, make it much more flexible and make it much more sort of in educational and supportive for receiving their money.
And one of the things that, as I was doing the research and we were talking in the office about this conversation was, payroll is quite a stable kind of industry, isn't it? So I'm really intrigued to see or understand a bit more about what the difference is between the services that PayCaptain can offer and your plans, I suppose, for the future of PayCaptain over traditional payroll services.
Well, really, I mean, the issue has been there's been hardly any innovation in payroll for a long time. When you compare it to other parts of the employee life cycle, like talent development or performance management or talent attraction, there's been some really big step changes in the technology available to companies, but payroll's been really sort of left behind. And some of that's been because it's so mission critical, it's a bit scary, and it's sort of been tainted with this, if it's not broken, don't fix it approach, and just sort of been left alone. And ultimately, because money has become quite complicated, and obviously in this cost of living crisis, I feel that it's sort of well overdue, give it some real care and attention to, first of all, make it easier for companies, make it more automated, use some artificial intelligence and robotic process automation to make it easier for companies to get this process done effectively. on time every time, but much more importantly, to make it easier for people to understand their pay, making pay more graphical, interactive pay slips that are actually helpful, that can show people that they are being paid correctly and they've got options with what to do with their money. There's a lot of confusing terminology with payroll and pension and taxes and national insurance and levies and all these sorts of things. So we wanted to make it really easy for people to take control. Maybe they can put more money into their savings every month on the basis it's the most effective way to save money, or they could top up their pension because they've received a bonus, or they could access some of their pay in an emergency before payday. All of these things that are now possible by using technology and financial payments technology better, embedding that into this typical B2B solution. So we actually see ourselves as a fintech solution, which is really transforming the way companies pay their employees and making that payroll process and elevating it into a highly valued employee experience, really.
Yeah, brilliant. And I get that and I can understand that now. And I think you're right there, aren't you? I think about the pay slip I receive or give out to team members every month is no different really to when I left school at 16. The only difference is I get it by email now. It looks nearly exactly the same as one I got in a sort of envelope at the end of every week when I left school and in my first job. It's that piece, isn't it, around actually how do you get people to understand their pay better? So that's the first point, isn't it? And then what can you add and what services you can add and how can you help them just improve their a term that you use actually, and I'll go on to ask you about that, their sort of financial well-being. So you do mention this quite a lot on the website and in any articles and things that you do. You talk about employee financial well-being. What does that really mean to you, Simon?
Well, ultimately, money is, as I said earlier, money is complicated, and money can cause anxiety for many people, regardless of their income. And actually, the sort of transaction of getting paid for the majority of people is the only inbound transaction they receive every month. And it's really important for people to know that transaction is being done properly. Again, on the basis that everybody has a job really in order to get paid. I've always felt that transaction should be better and help people. Managing your income isn't easy for everybody, and it's obviously gets harder the more you're struggling with finances. And there's so many people also with maths anxiety or low numeracy that really do struggle. And again, we wanted to make it easier for people to understand their pay, understand the options that they have for automatically saving money, topping up their pension, paying more perhaps than the minimum contributions, so that they can have a future retirement that they want to have. So really, it's about helping people at the source of receiving money, so that they have more opportunities to do the right things with their money.
Brilliant, Simon. I have to go sort of and ask about this kind of, as said in that very brief intro at the start of this conversation, that you started the business in 2020, and that was January 2020. I understand you started writing the business plan, what it was going to be, and then clearly then, first the first lockdown came along, the pandemic came along, but you did take on your first customers in April 2021, just sort of 14 months later. I mean, what was it like, being the founder of a startup fintech business, at the start of the pandemic? Was there a moment when you thought, this ain't going to happen?
Well, there was more than one. Yes.
That's an honest answer.
It was scary, to be honest. I mean, I knew I wanted to do this, and was really passionate about it and excited about it. And obviously there was a lot of uncertainty at that time, because we didn't know how long it was going to go on for. It always did feel a little bit that the light was at the end of the tunnel. So I kept on pushing, but it was hard and it was lonely as well. I was sort of here really doing it by myself, stuck on my computer, most of the time. I mean, thankfully, there was obviously nothing else to really do other than to build.
There's no real distractions.
Yeah, so I mean that definitely sort of helped the business to a certain extent, because I was really focused on what I was doing without any distractions, and just kept on going, really. And then, as you say, yes, we went live with our first full paying customers in April 2021, and then since then we've been growing carefully and slowly and steadily to scale the business appropriately. And we're just shy of a million annual recurring revenue and just teetering on profitability. So I'm really, really proud of where we've got to.
Yeah.
And there's 12 of us now in the company, and I'm excited about the future with it.
Brilliant. That's great. It's outstanding growth, really, in such a short space of time with those sort of external issues that you've had to counter. And a couple of questions come out of that, I suppose. I'd start with, people building, software businesses, fintech businesses, that leading time is normally a lot longer than, your kind of 14 months. How were you able to build a software fintech business in such a short period of time, other than that hard work and dedication, and having no distractions?
Well, that definitely, those were probably the main reasons. But I guess I've been really lucky to have quite a lot of experience with SaaS technology companies, and particularly in the HR space. I was chief operating officer before of a large SaaS business for HR payroll in the hospitality sector. And I basically was able to do a lot of different functions in that position. I was managing the customer service, I was managing sales and marketing, and all of our professional services. So I'd seen an awful lot, and I basically have been able to sort of leverage that for creating PayCaptain. And the whole purpose really was to take what I learned and try and do it as safely and as properly and as much as I could, do it right first time, based on some of the learnings that I'd had previously.
It's interesting, isn't it? And so would you definitely say that you wouldn't or couldn't do what you did now in the way in which you've done it without that kind of senior kind of employee experience you had before?
I think so, really. And several of the employees team that we've got at PayCaptain today, I've worked with for a very long time as well. And they have come to the business, and we know each other extremely well. I trust them implicitly. I know what they're good at, what they're not so good at, and we've also been able to leverage a lot of experience and expertise and this relationship capital that we've had for a long time. So I think the combination of that and the prior experience has really helped PayCaptain. I'm also extremely, when I set my mind to something, I just make sure it happens. And I've just really plowed through, understanding what we need to do to be HMRC accredited, what we need to do to get on the FCA register. Had to learn a lot about e-money and payments and faster payments.
You're in a very heavily regulated sector in many different areas, aren't you? Even that kind of e-money piece and the FCA and the HMRC. I mean, they're all complications in themselves, aren't they, that most sort of software businesses won't encounter necessarily.
Yes, I think that's right. One of the challenges with payroll, which is why I felt it really needed to be fixed and to be modernized, is because many of the older or legacy traditional payroll companies out there haven't been able to embrace these new technologies, because they've got so much incumbent processes, ways of working and technologies, and they've grown by acquisition. So we definitely had an advantage as well of being able to start with that blank sheet of paper. We didn't have to change anything. And actually, in a similar way to the technology side of things, it was about everything about the company. It was also a key requirement, or part of the strategy, I should say, that we became a certified B corporation right from the very beginning. It was something that was really important to me, and wanted to put that in place as early as we possibly could. And again, that was easier when you're starting from a blank sheet of paper, and putting processes and ways of working in that are good and right from the very beginning without having to, change a lot of stuff.
To go through that whole change management curve and process and all of those kind of things. One of the B-Corp piece was something I did want to talk to you about because, you got your certification in April this year, so congratulations.
Thank you.
I think you started to touch on it then, but what really motivated you to become a B-Corp, Simon?
Well, ultimately, just really believe that businesses can be a huge force for good. I think the power of businesses is enormous and potentially has a much wider impact or influence than governments can have. And if all businesses operated to really high standards and all cared about the planet and their community and their employees as much as the B Corp certification standards, then the world would definitely be a better place. And I really believe that, and which is why I wanted to use the B Corporation framework as our sort of guide rails for starting the business and for operating the business. There's some really great things in there. There's lots of opportunity to personalize it as well. We have a particular focus, obviously, on employee experience and financial security of people that are getting paid via the PayCaptain platform, and we want to have as much impact as we possibly can in that area.
Brilliant. And you talk there about business being a force for good, and I think clearly that shines through as one of your personal values and those kind of things. But businesses are quite often misunderstood, and you're now one of those. Perhaps the media would say, capitalists, but entrepreneurs, founders, whatever the term's like. Why do you think the media does play such a harsh role upon business owners? And B Corp is one thing, but what else can we do as business owners, business leaders, to change perception, Simon?
Well, I think the B Corp piece, for me, the fundamental elements is that it's not all about the shareholder. It's not all about money and not all about profit. And I think it's about being genuine and having a set of values that are realistic and you can be true by and live by, and basically to operate a business as a force for good, to genuinely deliver and create things that are making the world a better place. And it's doesn't always need to be about the financial rewards from that. I'm really enjoying PayCaptain. I believe that we can do a lot more to help people and to improve the business efficiencies but fundamentally improve employee experiences for handling their money and helping people be more financially secure. And because that is what we're trying to do, genuinely what we're trying to do, I feel that's positive, and that should be seen in a positive light.
Brilliant. And I can really, and I empathise with that. And I suppose we can only do business in our own way, to our own values, doing it the right way. And in time, if enough of us do that, the perception will change, won't it? I suppose that's ultimately, one person's not going to change, but everything. But if we all change and we all believe this, and we all believe that business can be a force for good, then over time we can change that perception, can't we? There'll be those listening to this podcast that have heard about B Corp certification and perhaps intrigued about going for the certification themselves. What was the certification process itself like, Simon?
Well, the B Corp provide a tool called the B Impact Assessment, and there's a series of questions that you need to answer in order for them to be able to put you in the right sort of category. And then there are these impact assessment areas where you basically will get a score for each area by answering questions and demonstrating that you can achieve the score in each area. So there is a lot of guidance out there. There's a lot of companies that will help small businesses that are thinking about becoming a B Corp as well. There's sort of mentors and support groups that will help companies and founders and management teams to learn what good looks like, what the best practices are, and also how to implement them in your company. So it's quite a long and arduous process, but the feeling of knowing that you're operating the business in the best way as you possibly can, I think, for me, that's been one of the factors why I wanted to do it, to know that we are looking after everything around us is in the best possible way, including our people and the planet and the wider community.
And brilliant, and that that is the core benefit I can see from you, and it's it aligned to those personal values again. But what other benefits have you perhaps seen? Perhaps some that you may not have anticipated from being B-Corp certified.
Not necessarily. We're working hard to promoting the PayCaptain solution with other B Corps. We
Okay.
really believe we can help organisations understand their workforce better by using PayCaptain, in particular being able to handle things like gender pay gap reporting and other types of pay gap reporting. These are all sort of things that we sort of built into the solution to make it easier for companies to do things like that. We did it for ourselves, really, and that's what's the most important. I think in the future, where more and more financial institutions and banks and future investors in PayCaptain may also be really pleased that we're a B Corp. I feel that this requirement for businesses to do more than just create shareholder value, there is certainly a momentum around that, and I think that will continue to grow. So I'm glad that we've sort of got in there, right from the very beginning. That will enable us to keep on evolving, to try and always be one step ahead, and I'm excited about doing that as well.
And it does really feel like there is that community of B Corps that are trying to help, support, work with each other, learn from each other, best practice, implementation and all of those things. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. And it was a really great milestone last week, actually, where UK B corporations reached 1,000 companies have now
Oh,
been
wow.
certified. And, the UK really leading the way in this across the globe now. And yes, you're right. The community is really important as a sort of collective, but also from a local perspective as well. We are focused and want to support each other as much as we can, and it definitely feels that that's real, and that's continuing to sort of grow and get stronger as well.
Brilliant. And coming back to you as an individual, I mean, how have you found being a founder of a business compared to being, an extremely senior member of a more corporate kind of operation in your previous role? I mean, what the difference is?
Well, I love it. It's much more enjoyable now that we're a little bit more established, and
Yeah.
some of the uncertainty around are we going to survive is all in the past. But no, I love it. I'm enjoying not having to rehearse board meetings or be on version 32 of a sales budget. And I'm also enjoying not having to have lots of meetings that don't really materialize in much action. So, it's great. It's exciting, and we've got a great team as well, which makes it even easier and even more enjoyable. But no, it's great.
Fantastic. Great explanation there. And I'm sure that will resonate with many of the listeners. And I suppose the question though, therefore, leads, you're building at such a rapid rate, the 1 million of recurring revenue, the 12 members of the team, all within 15 months of your first paying customer. How are you going to stop your business becoming that kind of adopting some of those corporate traits? And how are you going to keep it being entrepreneurial, Simon?
Well, I'm just going to work really hard at that. It's hard,
Yeah.
isn't it? I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sure lots of companies will talk about the challenge of this, and it's really important to me. We're going to talk about it a lot. We do talk about it a lot as a team already, as several of us have come from larger organisations as well, and we know what we don't like, and we know what has failed before or worked really well before as well.
Yeah, I was
So
going to say there's some strengths, isn't there? And, the larger organisations have some great strengths, and if you can take those strengths and
absolutely. And there's
but keep that
definitely lots
energy.
to copy from there, and of course there's a playbook or lots of
Yeah.
playbooks that we can tap into. But I definitely feel that it's about great communication, great transparency around our thinking and our strategy and our numbers to always make sure that people feel that they can feel the passion, and we're all a passionate bunch of people that are trying to make the company as good as it possibly can be, and trying to make our products and services as good as they possibly can be. I think purpose is also really important for everyone to feel that we're doing something good, and that we've all got a really important role to play. And I think finally, positivity is also really important. I want everyone to feel good about the company, everyone to feel happy to be here and enjoying being here, and good about their job and good about the work they do, and be able to feel confident and excited about what the future looks like. So those three things really are what I'm most focused on to ensure that we keep as we continue to grow. I also, don't want to grow this business ridiculously fast either. It's about going one or two steps forward every month, rather than 5 steps forward and 2 steps back.
So, although the growth has been quite, significant from startup, what your main focus, Simon, really is around that sustainable growth piece, which I suppose then means that that ethos, those values, the strong communication can flow within the organization. Is that true?
Yes, definitely. Avoiding the avoidable pitfalls is really, really important. And because payroll is such a sensitive subject, it also means that you have to get it right first time. And if you have issues, cause any concern with customers, it can be a real challenge. So we work really hard to make sure that we do get it right, that we do implement our customers properly every time. The configuration is exactly as required to meet their standards, and of course be compliant with legislation, and integrate nicely with lots of their other technology players that touch the payroll process. So it is about doing it right, carefully, at the right pace, and not cutting any corners.
And I'm interested, and maybe this isn't the case, but I read one article about PayCaptain that said you do all work remotely. Is that still the case?
Yes. So that's been interesting as well. Obviously, starting the business during COVID, we didn't have any choice, and it's continued. Really, we've now got a very geographically diverse workforce. 2 people in Scotland, all on the breadth and depth of the UK. So we've sort of gone down the roads now of being a remote first business, and almost there's no going back. It would be very strange now to decide to open an office in a particular location, because not all the company would be able to get there. So we've been talking about this a lot, about how we can make sure that we do collaborate really well, that we do get face-to-face and human contact on a regular basis. So we've got a little strategy and a calendar together so that we do all get to see each other on a regular basis. In fact, everyone's coming to my house next week for our little Christmas party.
Fantastic. Yeah, because that's the bit that intrigues me, really, is that, going back to the businesses I've founded and started, you want to create that buzz, that startup buzz. We're in this together, that energy, that collaboration, that collective responsibility for doing things right and getting, the purpose and the values into the business at an early stage and continue to drive them through. And I was just intrigued to see, clearly you've managed to do that, but how you've managed to do that with a kind of remote first principle.
Well, I think it's just those things we've talked about. I mean, we the team, including myself, of course, are excited about what we're doing. We are trying to do something different. I think we all do feel part of that, and we've all got a role to play. So this point about purpose, I hope, is everybody feels in the company, and we're on a mission to do something. And I think the more we can all feel that will help us to stay together, stay on the same path, and want to be here, doing this. But it is definitely harder for sure. When we're all in an office and could go to the pub and have a laugh and have those corridor conversations, and looking over somebody's shoulder to help them with an issue that they're struggling with. Those are all things that you sort of miss out on when you're on Zoom or Slack endlessly. So I think we all do miss some of that, but overall, the team are good at working at home, enjoying working at home, getting a better work-life balance. And, of course, there's a lot of conversation about whether it's good or bad, but we're into it now, and we're going to keep
that's
on
your
doing
strategy.
it.
That's what your strategy, isn't it? It's where you are. That's kind of the way you're following. And I suppose as long as you're doing it as you are and you're doing it consciously, you'll cover all of the bases, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think, as I said again, talking about it is key. We what we're doing now might not be exactly how we should be doing it when we're twice the size. So we'll just need to keep on evolving it.
And I suppose it does help that you've got people around you within the business that you've worked with before that you've got trust in. And the other big advantage, isn't it, in a sort of, I suppose, software fintech business is you've got the whole of the UK to attract talent from with the remote first. Whereas once you pin your kind of mast to a location, you historically you've been restricted as to the talent that you can attract.
Yes, exactly, and that definitely see advantages in that, and yes, looking forward to continuing being more geographically diverse for sure.
And where would you like to see PayCaptain in, say, 5 years' time? What's the ambitions for the business?
Well, ultimately, to just have a lot of happy customers, a lot of happy people. I want to be enjoying it as well. I want it to be operating in the best way it can possibly be. And I am excited about just the continuing to scale the business to continuously make it better. So I really enjoy that side of things, and looking forward to seeing it in a good place, adding value and having impact to lots of people.
Fantastic. One of the things that I'd pick up then, just a question I'd have is, clearly you've got those large number of strengths and, kind of skills that you've worked on, for the last 15, 20 years of your career. Are you at the point now where you're able just to purely to play to your strengths within PayCaptain as the founder? And if so, what are they? And I think it's a stage of the business that a lot of businesses or founders struggle to get through is, they start a business, they're doing everything, they're responsible for everything, and that delegating and letting go and then playing to their own strengths and letting others play to theirs is usually one of the barriers. But from this conversation, it would feel like you've overcome that. Is that the case? And if so, how did you manage to achieve that?
I don't think I have achieved it quite yet. Okay. I think...
Great honest answer.
Yes, no, I definitely haven't achieved that yet. But I also really do like being able to get my hands dirty and be able to dip in and dip out of everything as well. There's so much that's interconnected in a company. How you're managing your invoicing and versus your onboarding versus your IT. There's so many links to things. So, and I like looking at all of that and making sure that it's all joined up and working as well as it can be. So I think it would be hard for me to be letting go on some of the things like that. But those are the things that I enjoy as well. So yeah. I think the key thing for me is about automating a lot of the stuff that I don't enjoy, and having processes that mean that it can just work without having to get involved.
Fantastic. And as we wrap up the podcast, and the final question I always end on is a sort of definition of success for you. What's your definition of personal success, Simon?
Well, I think it's about being happy. Happiness is the most important, and ultimately success is something that's different for everybody. But the most important thing for me is that you're happy with what you're doing and enjoying it and feel that you're adding value, and to be able to get to a point where you're happy is the most important.
Loved having the conversation. Loved understanding a bit more about your journey and what you're looking to achieve at PayCaptain. Good luck in the years ahead. If people want to learn more about Simon, more about PayCaptain, where can they go?
Well, I guess the website, paycaptain.com or LinkedIn, and also be really happy to talk to anyone directly. My email, simon@paycaptain.com.
Brilliant, Simon. As I say, thank you for being a great guest on the podcast.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
Thank you for listening to the Evolve to Succeed podcast. My hope with every episode is that you've learned something new or heard something that challenged your way of thinking and further motivated you on your path towards becoming a more knowledgeable, informed and inspired individual and business leader. If you enjoyed this episode, then please help us by rating, reviewing and subscribing. We really value your feedback and would love to have you along for future episodes. And please don't forget to learn more about Evolve by going to evolvemembers.com. Thank you for listening. See you next week.